Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the ThePCelitist. My name is Woodsy.
My name is Shepard.
And today we're doing our week in review of news.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. How's it working out? First step in the first item of news. We completed 1 week on our new schedule. How about that?
It was a rousing success. And by that I mean it got about as many views as our videos normally get.
I think it was a success, an absolute success.
It was a success, and we have a lot to talk about today, so what are we starting with?
We're going to start with, of course, since we are a YouTube channel, and we just were reinvigorated with, want to grow our channel. We get slapped with copyright issues. Well, not us personally. No, we weren't.
No. We're not monetized, so I think we're safe for now.
Right, but our kin...
Yes, our much more successful brothers have been getting absolutely pimp slapped via email by YouTube over the last week over content ID violations, audio, video, really across the board. It's being referred to as a mass culling of gaming videos on YouTube. And the community and developers are not pleased.
Right. Well, we're reading specifically off of a Kotaku article regarding it. I know I've heard whispers throughout the week all about it.
It's posted on really any gaming site you go to. There's stuff about it. We just happen to be referring to Kotaku. There's one on Examiner.com. Anywhere you go.
Right.
So all the gaming community can talk about.
I think, one of the most interesting things about this entire story is that it just seems to be this whole wave doesn't seem to be coming from developers, because there's so many huge developers who are saying, since Google is not going to help you out, we'll help you out. We'll try to get, the slate wiped clean, send us the issues, and are really jumping all over trying to make sure their stuff isn't being, infringed upon, which I find extremely refreshing.
Yeah, there are plenty of indie devs who are coming out, speaking out against it, but Deep Silver, Capcom, Ubisoft, Blizzard, they're all coming out saying, we did not initiate these. It's usually partner companies we work with, a lot of them the companies they work with who manage their music or their audio or voiceovers. They're coming out and saying, if you're having these issues, go ahead and contest them and we'll help you get them cleared, sometimes same day. And that's kind of ambitious, but for people who are monetized, who are trying to make money off this on a day-by-day basis, it's really interesting to see just how strong the response is from the community and the producers.
Right.
So I'm really, and Google doesn't really have to do anything it doesn't want to do. It has such a presence everywhere and everything. But I really think that this is going to be a pretty big turning point. A line's being drawn here, and it's really up to Google as to how the ball's in their court and in terms of how they're going to play this forward.
Well, I think it's interesting because what you mentioned is that, the YouTube policy always seemed like it had language in it where they could just, if you're going to post video games, they could pull it down if they felt like it, or put advertisements up, or can, flag your channel or whatnot. You can't make money off of someone else's work. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly they start enforcing it. So what I hope happens, the positive of all this, is that many developers will kind of all get together and say, we don't want you to infringe people from doing this, and maybe they'll change the language of how you post video. If you're, doing commentary like we do, that's not against the policy of YouTube.
Yeah, I really wonder if, I don't know for sure, but as I understand it, this is not YouTube being kind of legally required to cover themselves. I think this is them being very aggressively proactive and trying to cover themselves, basically saying, we are the platform. We are not going to be party to people ripping off other companies, with us as the medium. But these companies are saying, no, we're fine with it. So what I think is interesting is YouTube just seemed to kind of do this without consulting a lot of these companies in terms of, do you want to explicitly allow or deny this, that, and the other. I wonder if the way forward on this is for Google to basically say, okay, if you want your stuff to have, if you want users to have a free pass on your stuff, let us know, and they'll write in the legalese that they need to basically say, don't come crying to us if you feel like you're being ripped off by a YouTube channel. Because Google's
Right.
going to be very good about putting the responsibility on everyone else except them.
Right.
So
Well,
I really think that it's going to be interesting to see, and especially for those who have YouTube as their primary source of income.
well, you know what? It could have
Right
been
now,
a.
you and I do this. Go ahead.
Oh no, continue your thought, please.
I was going to say you and I do this just for the amazing amount of love we get. We're not doing this for money.
Right.
But imagine if you were making, 80 grand a year from doing this and this was your job and suddenly you have no monetization whatsoever. I imagine you'd be pretty pissed.
I wonder if, yeah, you would be. And a lot of large channels are leaving YouTube and just creating their own site over it and just saying,
Mhm.
or they'll go to a different, video site. And I wonder if, YouTube will take that hit, and accept it. I also wonder if, and I'm just like, theorizing here, but what if there has been a ball being kicked back and forth in the background between Google and these large companies trying to nail down what they want to allow, and Google was tired of playing moderator, because their language does say that you can't have, someone else's stuff up there, and they thought, well, we're just going to force the issue,
Yeah, I
and
think I think it's very likely that this has been going on behind the scenes for a long time.
right,
And people are accusing Google what they're saying is, look, you're seeing that we as users are using your platform to make a lot of money for ourselves, and you, Google, are not okay with that. So this is you trying to take all of our profit by inserting your own ads into our videos, which gets you ad revenue, but nothing for us.
right,
So I'm sure it has been going on in the background, and this may have been, I'm sure Google's smart enough to know that there was going to be outrage from the community,
right,
but it remains to be seen, given how big the company is. Are they going to call our bluff?
right,
And is it really a bluff? Are you going to see these major channels leave? But even if all these major channels leave, how much of a dent is that going to be in the daily viewership total on YouTube? Because there will still be cat videos that get 400 million views.
right.
There will still be all these Vivo channels that are basically that lets you listen to whatever music you want. If gaming leaves, I would love it if someone would start a gaming video streaming site that is basically the YouTube of gaming only.
Right.
Let's have our own
Well,
damn site.
let's.
By we, I mean
Well,
the gaming community.
right. Well, you know what? I think it will probably warrant a discussion once the water's all kind of calm and see how everything lands. I think we'll have
Yeah.
to have a much longer discussion. But let's go from people who are, the claims of people stealing stuff to people who are actually stealing stuff.
Nice transition.
Thank you. So this is another article that this one happens to be on Kotaku as well. But this is titled "Indie Devs Ask Why and Pirates Reply." And do you want to give us a summary of this article?
Sure. Yeah, indie developer from Positech Games, the guy's name is Cliff Harris. He was concerned about why people were pirating his games so much. And what he did is and you can read this from the article, but what he did is basically say, I'm going to give you anonymity and immunity. If you just tell me why you pirate my game, I'm not going to come after you. I just want to know why you do it.
Right.
And he just wanted to get that information, and then he would post about it on his blog. And some of the reasons that were given, a lot of them we've heard before. And
Hmm.
apparently it's from a list that I guess was quoted from Ars Technica. And some of the reasons are as follows. There are people who just don't think copyright should exist. And if it's a philosophical difference, I'll read you the article. I won't interject my opinion just yet. Some people just don't agree with the copyright or intellectual property thing.
At all.
So, at all. Some people think games are too expensive. Others think the quality of gaming is too uneven, that a lot of games recently have been really good, others have been really bad. How do we know what we're actually getting? And we're still having to shell out money up front for it, and we don't know what the product's going to be like. The ever popular DRM is hurting us. It's hurting legitimate customers. And one of my favorites, I think actually maybe my favorite, going to the shops is annoying. Yes, because when I want a game, I go to the shops.
Way to fight that stereotype of lazy gamers.
Yeah, really.
Going
And
to
then finally,
shops is annoying.
finally, the one that I think is most interesting and sociologically explainable, because piracy is easy to do with low risk for getting caught.
Right.
So these are all things we've heard before.
Right.
I personally have never heard, since in the age of digital distribution, that going to the shops is annoying. Haven't heard that in a while. But really, the story here is that a developer went to the source and said, "Hey, those of you who are pirating, tell me why." And
Mm-hmm.
what I find most interesting is not the article itself, but some of the comments on the article, which I will just let you read because they're longer than the article itself. And this is not, we don't want to get into the piracy discussion here and now. We are actually planning for another piracy discussion coming up. We have a video, I think maybe a year and a half ago, called PC Pirates,
Right.
which generated a lot of discussion in the comment section. But
Mm-hmm.
we just wanted to highlight this story in case you hadn't heard about it. There's a developer who said, "Look, we don't want to just accept that people are pirating our games. Maybe there's something we can learn that might change the way we make games."
Right. Yeah, I think it's important to note, especially that the first rebuttal people gave him, or not rebuttal, but response, is that copyrights shouldn't exist. That shows a fundamental philosophy difference. So it doesn't. It really, in the end, it won't matter if you have DRM on your game or not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how bad the
There's a
game
group.
is.
Doesn't matter. Is a group that might be a large segment, a smaller segment, but we're going to do this all in the discussion. But that just flat out don't even agree that he should be able to keep control over his intellectual property in the first place, no matter
Mhm.
what he does with it. So,
Right.
or how he distributes it. So that's an interesting thought.
Yeah. The last thing I want to say about this particular item is that I think it's interesting the perspective of, let's try to understand the reasons behind piracy so we can adapt what we do to try and combat it. I just think it's a fascinating response to say maybe we're doing something wrong or maybe we can do something better.
Right.
And I find that very fascinating. But again, we'll cover this all in our forthcoming piracy discussion early in the new year.
Right. Absolutely. So also the our next story has to do with an old favorite. Doom is turning 20.
Just turned 20 this last week.
Well, that's awesome. Makes me feel
Yes,
old though.
it really does. What are your just quickly, what are your memories of Doom? What stands out to you that sets Doom apart from any other game you've ever played?
Doom was the game where I literally Doom was a weird thing where like my friends like fathers were playing Doom before I was playing Doom. I remember going into my friends' houses and hearing, gunshots and snarling coming from their father's office.
Hearing the imps gargle in the dark.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And because it was like such a cool thing that I think, everyone wanted to play it.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I think I ever played it was at someone else's house, and their father was playing it. And he just had the speakers blasting, and the room was like pitch black, and you just heard those classic Doom sounds, and it changed me forever.
Yeah, it was the first violent game I ever played, actually. I was not allowed really to watch violent movies or TV shows or play many video games other than what was on my, I think, and regular NES at the time.
Right.
And so this was before I really became a PC gamer. Obviously I was a child. My parents are technologically incapable of most things. So this was like my exposure to, wow, this is a game not meant for people my age.
Right.
It was scary, it was violent, it was incredibly fun, and I remember just once you got the ID God and IDKFA to get yourself some unlimited ammo, you just would launch rockets
Right.
forever.
And what I learned is that demonic monsters love to congregate around explosive barrels.
They do, yeah.
I didn't
It's
know
like
that.
they're like homeless people next to trash cans full of fire. I remember a couple of things distinctly. The plasma rifle being one of the best guns in any game ever.
Uh huh.
I remember when my cousin, who I think was like 12 or 13 at the time, telling me what BFG stood for, and I was horrified because I thought, wow, he's like an adult talking like that. And finally, I remember that was the first time I fell in love with reading, and games don't really do this anymore since they're mostly digital, reading the manual that came with the game, the booklet that told the story of Phobos and Deimos, that told you the intel on all the bad guys and all the guns.
Right.
I read that 50,000 times, and I just couldn't get enough of it. I loved reading that. And,
Is
and
the intel on the monsters? It says shoot here, and it's just a circle around the entire monster.
I think, I can't remember the name of the enemy, but it's the flying skulls that are on fire.
Yeah.
It said something like skull that flies on fire. Enough said. That was the description.
Oh man, that's so
I
good.
will say though that my life truly changed when Doom 2 came out and you got the double-barreled shotgun
Yeah,
because, how could you not use that every time?
right.
So yes, Doom, we salute you. Fond memories we have of thee.
Absolutely. So what's next on our docket?
I wanted to touch very briefly on the in-game store in World of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
You can now buy things like virtual pets, and this, I think, a lot of people are saying that this is the signal of what is going to happen in WoW and what is going to happen for any MMO RPGs that are thinking of going to a subscription model or were thinking of going to it. What people are saying is this. WoW realizes that it's still the king of the crop, but they have a new expansion coming out, Warlords of Draenor. All these free-to-play MMOs are out. They're going to have to compete in some way, and pure name recognition and reputation are not going to be enough. So
Mm-hmm.
what people are saying is that WoW is Blizzard's eventually going to ditch the subscription model and put a lot of things into their online store, and that this is kind of a pilot program for an online store.
But wait, they've always
Yeah,
had digital creatures, but you couldn't buy it within the game, right? This is
right.
like
You
within
couldn't
the
buy
game.
it with real money. Yeah. So what people are saying is that whereas now you can say, "Oh, I really want that flaming kitten pet,"
Mm-hmm.
it's instead of it being 3,000 gold, it's $5
Right.
US.
Well, they did sell some pets. I remember there was like a celestial, like unicorn something or other
Mhm.
that went on sale on their website only. You could only go to the website and order it and send it to your WoW account.
Right.
And people who usually had it in game were made fun of for throwing away $20 on something that's
Yeah.
not
Never
real.
mind that we were all spending like 160 a year
Exactly.
in just subscription fees. Yeah, you spent $5 on that, you're stupid.
My Quell Sorara, that's real. Your horse is not real.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that this would be fascinating if WoW decided after at long last to ditch the subscription model and put a bunch of stuff in the in-game store. I just wonder if they did that, when, and what kinds of things would they put in the in-game store? Would they allow you to buy items, for example, and have a in-game currency auction house and a real money currency auction house, which I believe did Diablo 3 have that?
Yep,
It
they
has
did.
both.
It had a real
And
money auction house, which I
uh,
thought they dumped later, but I could be wrong.
I can't remember because I stopped playing Diablo before I even could get to an auction house. I played it for about 6 hours, I think, and just ran around killing a bunch of stuff. And
That's
yeah,
what you do. That's Diablo.
that's Diablo. So yeah, I just think it's interesting that this could be a sign of things to come for them.
Right.
But I have faith in Blizzard no matter what, that if people don't like it, they won't go for it.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
remains to be seen.
I was at
I just think the whole virtual pets thing is getting ridiculous. I never liked the pet system.
right. A friend
It
of mine
just
was talking to me about WoW. He's like, "Oh, he was telling me about the new expansion, all the stuff they're doing." And as much as I love Blizzard, I've fallen out of love with WoW, and I'm just kind of roll my eyes at I to me, and I just feel like the team working on World of Warcraft is just grasping at straws at this point.
yeah.
We'll try to revitalize this community because people are falling out of it, and um, I can't even imagine what they would have to do to get me to play again. That's how all I could say on it. I mean,
It would have to be they'd have to scale back. And you and I had this discussion recently. What if they released vanilla WoW servers
yes, if they
that
had
didn't even have Burning Crusade, that just level 0 to 60, original content only? You and I said to ourselves, what kind of migration would there be of current players to that and former players to that?
right, there are private servers that do that. I
Mhm.
understand, but it would be something if it was a Blizzard endorsed thing. I would be very interested in it. So
Yeah.
yeah, and who else is interested in Blizzard?
Who dat?
The NSA.
Yes. I don't know if any of you caught this. If you watched The Daily Show, you did. And The Daily Show did a really half-hearted and very lazy attempt to parody this story. The NSA and the GCHQ, which is one of the intelligence agencies in the UK, and they have become popular now thanks to Edward Snowden. The NSA and GCHQ planted agents in World of Warcraft and Second Life to spy on gamers, purportedly to try and uh, find terrorist activity. That the hypothesis was that various cells were using MMO games to communicate with each other and to organize, not to like plan tactics for what they were going to do to
Right.
America.
As a
We're
communication
we're not going to
means.
see a 40-man alliance raid on Los Angeles anytime soon. If we do, we have to protect Thrall at all costs.
You know what I thought when I read this story?
What's that?
People still play Second Life?
Exactly.
That's always my reaction. Next week, someone will bring up that game, and I was like, really? People.
Yeah, when I think of Second Life, I think of Dwight Schrute, who in his Second Life is a paper salesman who can fly.
It's like those television shows that keep coming up all the time. You know, when someone mentions it, like, did you watch Two and a Half Men last night? And you're like, that's still on? What?
So here's the great thing about this NSA story. It's twofold for me. One is some guy who's at home playing WoW, and his wife says, "I thought you quit that game. What the hell?" And he says, "Honey, I can't talk about it. It's for work. Just trust me. I'm gonna need you to leave the room now." That's one piece. The other piece is at the actual NSA at Fort Meade, your boss comes to you and says, "Okay, look, we know since we've been tapping your internet communications for years that you are a former WoW player. We're going to need you to go do that again, and we're going to pay you for it." What do you say to your boss when he tells you that?
Right. Yeah,
I said
get.
yes, but I won't play a Night Elf war.
You know, the Horde flag is red. You know, those commies.
That's true.
You know?
So if you still play WoW, just be aware. That creepy guy who's always in your raid but never actually is contributing, he's always like ninth on the DPS meter.
Right.
He's watching you.
He's
He's not a noob. He's an NSA operative.
the guy who, in mid-raid, suddenly says, BRB, quick shower. He's actually just listening. He didn't go anywhere. He's listening to see if you guys talk about terrorist activity.
That's true.
While they all believe you're in the shower. That's how that works.
Now I'm worried because I think I said during raids, Durka Durka Mohammed Jihad.
You're screwed.
Yeah.
You're done.
He's going east on Bakalakadak Street. Okay.
So,
This has been the Week in Review, Episode 2.
my name is Woodsy.
My name is Shepard. This is the PC Elitist signing out.